It does not matter how much mindset work you do.
Yeah.
If your nervous system and your body is not regulated and alive and available for the success that you're calling in, you will sabotage it no matter what.
With over a decade of coaching experience, Alexi, Panos, and Preston Smiles are experts in nervous system regulation and trauma healing. Their transformative workshops have helped thousands heal emotional wounds, release stored trauma, and create sustainable, lasting change in people's lives.
Survival mode's there to save us, but most of us are stuck in it. So we teach people, how do you actually learn to identify when you are in survival?
So our big work is around helping people heal their nervous systems so they have enough somatic capacity to receive and actually be with what they say they want.
I have no shortage of people who've come to me saying they've experienced your work. It's been massively transformational. And so maybe we can go back to the beginning of that for a moment and explore, how did you get into this space? When was your first event that you ever put on? Was it together? Was it separate? Because I know you're doing work together now, but let's go back to the very beginning and then we'll talk about the work you're doing now.
Oh, my first events were my nonprofit work.
Yeah.
So that was, 20 plus years ago, bringing people over to Tanzania, clean water wells, sustainable business, entrepreneurship ventures for young women, all sorts of stuff, really contributing to certain communities and building out a sustainable way for them to work together. Personal development wise, I was giving talks at corporate events on vulnerability. And it was an interesting thing because I had just gone through my own trauma and really started recognizing that I had all the success in the world. But if I hadn't really looked at my wounds, I was very guarded in my success. And in fact, my success was something to kind of push in front of my heart and go, hey, look here instead, because this feels a little scared or fearful. And so when I started doing that work, I started recognizing that the talks I was doing in leadership really needed to be about vulnerability, because vulnerability is when we unlock our superpowers. And then when him and I met, we very quickly decided hey, we need to work together. And funny story, our very first workshop together was a naked workshop called The Naked Truth. In true Lexi and Preston fashion, we went all the way to the extreme and said, how can we do something so different?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's different.
Very different. And it was awesome. I think, was our first one in Costa Rica? No. Oh, it was at the camp.
Yeah.
There was this adult summer camp, and that's where we did it, in a yurt.
Oh my gosh. No way. How many people present?
40?
Yeah, maybe 40.
Wow. Did they know what they're getting into, or was it
they
show
knew.
up for something extreme?
Yeah, no, they knew. I mean, you got to let people know when it comes to nudity. You've got to give them a heads up on that one.
Yeah. Hang there for just 1 second on the nudity part.
Yep.
Is that something you've always been comfortable with? Were you comfortable at the moment that you launched the workshop being naked? Or was this a stretch for you too, where you're like, what would stretch everybody, including us?
It was a stretch.
It was a stretch.
Well, and it's not just about getting physically nude. It's about getting emotionally nude.
Exactly.
Right? The naked truth.
Yeah.
And so we spend, a good portion of the workshop, it was a 4-hour workshop, about 3 hours of it is really just revealing the heart. So we're taking off all the layers of the heart, and then creating so much safety and connection in that room that by the time we got to the naked part, people were like, yeah, I'm ready. Let's go.
Wow.
You've seen the scariest part.
Yeah.
Right? You've seen the scariest parts of me. Now, this is just my skin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, something to take note of, and I'll go into a bit of my story, but I want for anybody listening to understand that our big premise with the work that we do is it does not matter how much mindset work you do.
Yeah.
If your nervous system and your body is not regulated and alive and available for the success that you're calling in, you will sabotage it no matter what.
Every time.
Whether it's relationships, money, health, you will sabotage it. So our big work is around helping people heal their nervous systems so they have enough somatic capacity to receive and actually be with what they say they want. Most people can talk about what they want till the cows come home. And some people get lucky enough to have it come, but most people have it come and they drop it and fumble it and sabotage it because they have a equilibrium. They have a status quo in their body. The body has its own intelligence. And as people heal their nervous system and their body, now it could get linked up with the mind and the mindset. And the soul already knows. The soul is tapped in and has always been tapped in. Yeah. It's the body and the mind catching up. And the beautiful thing about Tony Robbins and all these other things where it's mental, that's beautiful. The piece that gets missed is
Gentlemen, Front Row Dads Live is coming up December 4th through the 6th in Austin, Texas. It's a one-of-a-kind event for men who want to win at home and in business. After last year's event, one of our attendees, Eric, said, Front Row Dads Live created the perfect space to go deep with other men, and it inspired massive changes in every area I needed it. Here I found community, purpose, and a better understanding of who I am meant to be as a father, husband, and leader. Go now to frontrowdads.com/live for more information.
We've all done stuff and had stuff done to us that is deeply traumatic. There's a lot of neglect and bullying and things that have occurred in people's lives. And I'll give you just one brief story, and I'll call this girl Sarah. Let's say that Sarah is 1 year old and she's crying in her room and she wants mommy. Mommy, mommy, mommy. But mommy is extremely stressed out and fighting with daddy. Daddy's left. Mommy's stressed. Sarah's been crying for hours. And mommy just is up to her head in like breakdown. So she doesn't go in that room.
Yeah. Sarah
Passes out, goes to sleep. But there's a core betrayal in her body before she ever has a cognitive thought. She can't, when she's 16, she doesn't know that core wound of abandonment is what's showing up in how she operates in business, in relationship, in how she perceives what's possible for her. She's operating from this wound. Now, it'd be one thing to say, oh, that's the only wound that Sarah has in her lifetime. But by the time she's 7, she's got 20, 30, 50 more.
Right.
Yeah.
So now we're stacking all these wounds. And the body holds on to emotions like water holds on to a sponge, right? It remembers and it holds unless we allow it to complete itself. And so most people walk into our rooms, they are filled to the brim with stuff that they are ready to release. And so all of our work is about that particular piece.
Yeah, and that piece is so important because you can't outthink how the body feels. And a lot of people are trying to outsmart their bodies. They're affirming, I can do powerful things. This next business, I'm going to make $1 million. We set our goals. We set our sights really high. But what we're not really looking at is, but are we in a safe body?
Yeah, that's right.
Does our body feel like it's stuck in survival mode? Because if it is, good luck.
Yeah.
Because you're moving from hypervigilance or you're checked out, right? So that's why the work of expanding the nervous system, creating attunement with the body and going, hey, I'm noticing my response right now. It's not that we ever get out of survival mode, right? Survival mode's there to save us, but most of us are stuck in it.
Yeah.
So we teach people, how do you actually learn to identify when you are in survival? Okay, you're in survival mode. Yes. How do you bring yourself out? Now, when you bring yourself out, how do you expand your capacity, your window of tolerance to be able to hold more stressors in life? Not that you have to take on more bad stuff, but that you're able to hold more good stuff too. Right? And that is when we start to really see growth and healing happen, is when we heal the body and we expand that window. We attract more in and we can hold it versus sabotage it.
I remember you and I having a conversation at Burning Man in camp about how to interpret the signals of my body. Because now that I was getting attuned to it, I was trying to figure out, okay, I know that feeling is there. I know something's happening, but what is that ultimately telling me?
Yeah.
Telling me take a step away and create space, or lean in because this is your work. How to then, once I'm dialed into my body, to know what to do with it.
Yeah. And that's a skill. None of us were taught that.
Yeah.
You know, this is now becoming a part of our lexicon and our worldview, which is amazing. But none of us were taught that skill. Yeah. And so we have to learn.
And it assumes there's a right and wrong, and there isn't.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how available am I to life here and now.
Yeah.
Any direction you take, in my opinion, God. You go up, God. You go down, God. You go left, God. You fight with Tatiana, God. You're great with Tatiana, God. It's just, there's no way out of this beautiful quantum field that we're living in. It's beautiful, and it just says yes. The question is how much of the yes am I aware of? You know, I like to liken the quantum field, or what most people would label as God, as like electricity. Electricity never says no. It just asks, do you have the infrastructure for what you're plugging up? You want to plug up an iPhone? Go for it. Do you have the body to hold that iPhone? You want to plug up a podcast studio? Go for it. But do you have the proper channels to hold that much electricity? Our whole work is about that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean we're perfect. I still have stuff come up, right? We still have stuff come up. It's about, what does one need to do to get back to a safe body so I have choice and awareness? Because when we go into our immobilized or stress response, we have less options.
Yeah, we literally, the front part of our brain shuts down, and that's where all of our creativity, our compassion, our wider macro view thinking, all of our executive leadership skills are in the front. And when we are in a survival body, we go straight to the back, to the amygdala, and we are just thinking about, what do I need to do to survive? And that's when usually our wounded child comes up and goes, cool, what's the adaptive strategy I need to implement right here to keep myself safe? And for the most part, it's usually not the best strategy.
When you're in your workshops, how much of those workshops is structured and you're like, I know what we're going to say next and I know what we're going to do, and how much is like just coming through you and you're ready to pivot and flex in any given moment?
Let me start with this one, because I want to say our workshop is called the Bridge Experience. And the idea of it is that I am the bridge for everything that is occurring in my life, right? And so one of the core agreements we made, because both of us had done a bunch of work in other arenas, and every time we'd get a certification or go do a thing, we'd go, oh, that's awesome, but it's incomplete. Oh, that's amazing, but it's missing this. Oh, that's really cool, but I wish it had spirituality. Oh, I love that, but it's too much mindset, not enough body. And so what we decided when we came together is we were going to create this super workshop that is the best in the world, that involves everything we could find, plus spaciousness for creativity. And we have to, our number one agreement is every single room is different. Every single room has a different energy, different people. And so we have like a lexicon. We have like a book.
We have recipe cards
of like, okay, this room is really high strung. Everybody's buttholes is this tight, right? Usually we would go here, here, and here, but this time with the tight buttholes, we're going to go here, here, and here. And then we'll see what happens. And on the break, we'll go, okay, all right, that worked. Let's go deeper. Or that worked, but they're tired. They are emotionally drained. Let's give them something that shoots them up and connects everybody even more. And then we'll go, okay, now let's add this thing over the lunch break that has them come back in tears, right? And like it's literally like jambalaya. We're cooking, and we're deciding what goes in the pot based on who's in the room.
Dude, right when you're saying that, I pictured being at Alex Moscow's house with you, and you like I was just reading the room and I'm like, this could use some energy I was feeling. And then next thing you know, you roll in with a speaker on your shoulder and you just start dancing. And it was perfect. It's exactly that, but not necessarily in your workshop, but in your everyday life. I love seeing that you're practicing the principles every day, that you're utilizing to serve others in your workshop?
It's parenting 101.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's right.
That's exactly right.
What's needed now?
That's exactly right. Yes. So good.
Mhm.
That's right. Do you have any thoughts on this? Channeling, downloading versus
Yeah,
structure?
yeah, it's so interesting because I think in the beginning of our work, we were more aware of trying to get it right, wanting to make a difference, wanting to make an impact, wanting to make sure people got what they came for. We're a decade in at this point.
Yeah.
You know, like we are seasoned in this work and we know it, we live it, it's our life. And so now there's almost like this effortless flow over the past few years that is just, it's like when we're in our body is attuned to the bodies in the room.
Mm.
If you're in our room, I'm attuning to your body. We're animals. Just like dogs attune to other dogs without saying a word. They can feel what's happening.
Mm.
And we can feel that. And that's a skill that we've learned, that we've fine-tuned and worked on. But we can feel our students. And we can feel where their bodies are closing and collapsing. We can feel when they're opening and exhaling. And so we move with that feeling. So it's really cool.
Whenever somebody tells me they can do that, they're like, I can read people's energy. I get a little self-conscious. I'm like, how am I doing right now?
Tell me about
Can
myself.
they tell that I'm scared? what are they reading right now in my body?
Yep.
I love it. You know, because I'm connected to women who have been in your workshops and have benefited from your work. And then also husbands of those women who have experienced a new version of their spouse. Yeah. I've been in that spot too, where Tatiana came home from one of your events and she was just lit up.
So good.
Can you do that every weekend?
Yeah, I would love to.
Can I send her to the weekend workshop with Alexi? Because, and by the way, not because I need you to fix her, but because of who she was coming out of that.
Well, and
that
that's
she gave herself
key.
Space and time and
she was connected to her feminine radiance, her life force, her aliveness. And when women connect to that, and it's a practice, right? Like you can come to one of my events and get that, taste it, touch it. But then you have to practice it. You have to take that home with you.
Yes.
And that's why I have longer containers for women, because oftentimes women are really bad at putting themselves first and making self-care or aliveness or pleasure a practice. We're like, oh yeah, when I have time. And we put it over here. But then we don't realize we bring this duller, crunchier version of ourselves to all aspects of our lives. Meanwhile, Tatiana comes home from a weekend and you're like, whoa. Yeah. Who is this woman?
If she ever tells you she can't come because of me, she's lying. We need to address that.
You're like, I will move mountains to get her there.
I'm a yes to supporting her on any adventure. She texted me the other day and was like, hey, I want to go to this thing. And she's actually going this weekend to a thing. And I was so happy for her. I'm like, of course, yes. Like, yeah. And I could feel there's a part of me that there's an attraction that pops up in me. That sounded, I should have said that differently. But there is something that arises within me energetically, truly, when the minute she goes, I'm going to go work on me. Mm-hmm. I'm like, ooh, that's hot. Yeah. Yeah. Like, good for you. Like, and I can't wait to see who returns back. And like, that feels good.
Yeah.
She needs that.
Yeah. And everybody does.
I'm so glad that you're providing that space. And I hope that people listening will be able to check out your work, and they can even hit up Tatiana and get a recommendation, and others that have experienced it. Is Bridge a good place to start? If people wanted to come do work with you, is that the starting place?
It's a great place because all of our work is built off of the foundation of a safe body. Yeah. And in order to know your body, you have to be in communion with it. And that's what we do over 2 weekends.
How often are you running it?
Well, about once a quarter. Yeah. So we've got Australia coming up in a couple weeks, and we've got Austin. We primarily base in Austin, so we try to get it out once a quarter. But
Austin in January.
Yeah, January, and then we'll do one in springtime. But get in that room. We promise you will never feel the same about yourself. It's not that your life will magically change and you'll get $1 million, but you change in the face of your life. And no matter what happens, you know that your capacity's expanded. You know you can hold more. You know you can feel more. You know you have choice because you know how to get back in your body and breathe. And that is a skill that all of us need to know how to do.
Guys, you're going to be with us in December for our Front Row Dads live event, which I'm thrilled to be in the room with you. I really am. Like I when I look at the website and I see your faces, I'm like, I can't even believe this. Like there's still like, I'm pinching myself. So thank you. I really appreciate it. especially knowing what we talked about today with, all that you juggle, all of that calls to your attention. And there's no shortage of invites sent to you to participate in whatever grand adventure or live event or party or whatever it might be. So thank you for doing that. It means the world to me. And I'm excited for everybody that's going to be there. Crazy is we're getting close to selling out the event 3 months in advance, which is really cool.
So good.
So I'm wondering if there's anything that you wanted to say about why you said yes to being there, or what we might get into. And we don't know what we're going to get into, but we just know that it's going to be good. And that there's so much synergy between your world and Front Row Dads, of course. So I just wanted to mention that. I wanted to tell everybody that you'll be with us. And then, I don't know if there's anything you want to say on that. I don't have like a really great question around it, but if there's anything that you wanted to tease out or lead with, that would be great.
I'll just speak to why I said yes, because you texted me. I'm like, yes, whatever date it is, I'll make it work. First of all, congrats on almost selling out. That's amazing. For me, it was a yes because, again, I've been diving so deep with women, and I know how much conflict and struggle there is currently in relationships. And I know how much that affects children. And so for me, knowing what's happening on the woman's side of things, I can't wait to sit in an audience of men and be able to support them. Because I know when I support the women, I support the men. I know when I support the men, I support the women. And that supports the family. And I'm all about that. That lights me up. So yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, there's a part of me that wants to invite all the spouses in for that moment. And then there's a part of me that's like, oh, this would be really special for all the guys just to hear this from your perspective too.
Yeah. And men need that. I think women need that too. We bring a lot of men into our work because women need to hear from men, and they need to hear a perspective that they often can't hear from their husbands. Yeah. And I think it's important that men have that from women as well. So
quick addition to what you just said, when Tatiana attended your event, and then there was a couple of men there that I know.
Yes.
And that was so great. And she had such a powerful experience with that.
Yeah.
That was part of my maturity also, was being okay with watching Tatiana see greatness in other men. Because it definitely pointed at my insecurities when that happened.
Yeah.
But the more that I've been able to be in practice with that and accept now I see these strong men in our community, and I'm grateful that Tatiana feels safe with them and inspired by them and connected to them. That's really, really cool.
It's so good. It helps her see you better too.
Yeah.
And by the way, you were going to be there, and then Tatiana said yes to the event. I'm like, all right, we got to cancel John. So you'll be at our next one.
Another time.
Yeah, that Tatiana does not attend.
Just to tap on that for a second. I think also, and I know we're ending, but I just want to say this. A lot of times you go into relationships and we have this idea that, I'll use the metaphor analogy of dogs, right? We get a German Shepherd, but inside of our own consciousness, we're like, you better also be a pit bull and a Rottweiler and a this and a that and a Chihuahua at times and a this. And what I see or hear you saying is that you're dropping into understanding that your flavor of the masculine is different than other people's flavors of the masculine. And that's okay. I think, again, the attachment to, oh, we're married, so I now need to be, a gun-toting, dick slinger, and also the Wolf of Wall Street, and also, purr like a cat and be every single thing that this woman requires and desires. But the truth is that nobody can be everything to everyone.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Our work is to recognize, okay, this is about where my partner goes. And that's beautiful. Can we celebrate? This is about where he can get to. This is about where she can get to right now. May change. All this over here that I require, desire, want from the feminine, I now have to find a way to supplement this in a healthy, conducive way that fills my cup so that I'm not looking everywhere else and or punishing this partner for just being a German Shepherd, because German Shepherds are awesome. So to me, I love that you're in that space. I'm also in that space, recognizing where my faults are and where I'm not what I'm not yet, and giving myself grace for that as well. You know, like I have also looked at you and went, fuck, I wish I could just be like John, so attentive and like detailed and like wanting to be with everyone's heart, and then like, fuck, bro, that's not here right now. You have a lot of other things you have to tend to. And it is here in the times that it is, and it's not in the times that it's not, right? We are different dogs in this race.
Yeah.
And I look at it and I celebrate it now, right? But I used to have a whole insecure thing that would occur for me. So vice versa. This happens in many different ways. And for me, it just levels me up. It's like, oh, there's another example. There's another way I could do this.
Yeah.
Right? Now, all that to say, to me, I said yes because when I signed up for this, I said that I would serve no matter what. And it feels good to serve. I think that everybody has their thing or things that is in their wheelhouse that feels good for them to give as a gift to humanity. And one of ours, and anybody who ever chooses to go into Bridge with us will instantly know, and they'll get a big taste of it at Front Row Dads, is one of our gifts together is it's a particular type of synergy. And when you get a man and woman on the same stage, if you may, leading and holding and pushing and taking other, we are like a magical force when we lock in together. And that feels good to me. That's like doing Molly without doing Molly, right? That's like going to Burning Man without going to Burning Man. So I'm like, oh, we're doing a dance. We're in our pocket. This is what we're made for.
Yes.
That feels good.
Yeah.
Right? So that.
Is Bridge a good place to start? If people wanted to come do work with you, is that the starting place?
It's a great place because all of our work is built off of the foundation of a safe body.
Yeah.
And in order to know your body, you have to be in communion with it. And that's what we do over 2 weekends.
How often are you running it?
Well, about once a quarter.
Yeah.
So we've got Australia coming up in a couple weeks, and we've got Austin. We primarily base in Austin, so we try to get it out once a quarter. But
Austin in January.
yeah, January, and then we'll do one in springtime. But get in that room. We promise you, you will never feel the same about yourself. It's not that your life will magically change and you'll get $1 million, but you change in the face of your life. And no matter what happens, you know that your capacity's expanded. You know you can hold more. You know you can feel more. You know you have choice because you know how to get back in your body and breathe. And that is a skill that all of us need to know how to do.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say before we go?
I'm clear, man. Thank you. This has been awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, just really grateful for the work you do. Thank you for serving men, for giving them a safe space to come undone, because men hold a lot. So thank you for that.
Thank you both.
Yeah.
This is so good. Thank you.
Love you.